Hey guys, so it's about time I talked to you about the Mobula7 Freestyle HD. This is actually one of my favorite drones to fly, and I'm going to tell you why. You want this drone because it's super agile at only 24 grams, and it has way better video quality than the analog counterparts. You can fly in pitch black pretty much if you adjust the camera settings, and you even have a 4x3 or 16:9 camera mode. So it's just a much better optioned whoop than an analog version, but it's got the same performance due to the low weight as an analog drone and the same latency as an analog drone. I fly this drone rather than a 65mm when I'm looking for longer flight times, or I want it to be able to cover a longer distance, or I want it to fly just a little bit better outside than a 65mm does. So with this, I'll get 5 or 6 minute flight times with a 660 battery, which is double what I get with a 65mm. Also with the bigger props, really chew through the wind a little bit better than the 65 does. I've flown this drone for over 8 hours. Yeah, I checked it in the VTX menu, so I guess you could call this a bit of a long-term review rather than a short-term review. I've had the drone for over 4 months, and I just haven't gotten around to making a video about it, but it's really time I do so. So one problem I see people have with this drone is that the batteries they buy don't fit in the tray. They move around. So what I did to solve that is I got bigger batteries for one, but you can also just put a piece of VHP tape kind of on the side there, which reduces the size of the battery slot, and then no problem. You can run a lot of those smaller 450 batteries from Betaflight, and they don't slip around too much. Let's talk speeds and feeds on this monster. So this thing has 25,000 kV 0802 motors on HQ ultralight tri-blade props and a V4 Mobula7 frame. My recommended batteries for this thing are the GMB 530 with an A30 connector, or the GMB 660, again with that A30 connector. So these fit into the battery slot perfectly, and they're low cost compared to some of the others. And it's got that A30 connector, which is the exact right connector for the plug on this. So over the course of 4 months and 8 hours of flight time, what have I broken on this? Fortunately, not very much, but I will show you a few of the things that did break and how I fixed it. So on this frame, if you look right there where the battery goes in, it starts to separate a little bit, the little rib. And so I fixed that with some E6000 glue. I hear it's a common issue with this particular frame. The other thing that broke, of course, were props, and I just swapped those out, but really I'm on my second set of props after 8 hours of use, which is, again, incredible. And then, unfortunately, one of the more tricky ones that did give me a problem is one of my motors, the shaft would spin free from the bell. And the way I had to fix that was to take the motor apart and apply some special shaft setting Loctite, and that completely repaired it. But it is kind of a shame that that happened, as that was a little bit trickier of a repair to do. So let's compare the Mobula7 Freestyle HD to the Betaflight Air 75. The Air 75 is about 21.5 grams, and this one is about 24 grams. So you've only got a little bit of a weight difference between these two. Air 75 has 0802 23,000 kV motors, and this has 0802 25,000 kV motors. So we've got a little bit more power on this guy. Now on here, I believe this is the CO3 analog camera, and it's not good. It's not good at all. It's adequate. There's a lot better analog cameras out there, but unfortunately on tiny whoops, analog tiny whoops, they always come with pretty low-end cameras. Now on the Freestyle HD, this is a way better camera, as it has much better color representation, it's higher resolution at 720p, it has 16:9 and 4x3 options, and it has a super low light option, letting you fly in the dark with it. And I did mention a 65mm quite a few times. This is the Mobula6 Freestyle HD that I've heavily modified for racing purposes. And this is kind of my go-to drone for freestyle, indoors, and a little bit of outdoors. It's much easier to fly indoors, and that's why I like to fly it, because I mainly fly my tiny whoops indoors, not outdoors. But yeah, this is going to be way lighter. I've got this thing down to about 18.5 grams, where this of course is at 24 grams. So which one should you buy? Well, I mentioned it earlier, but if you're going to fly indoors primarily, I really think the 65mm is going to be the choice for you. But if you fly outdoors primarily, the 75mm offers so many benefits, mainly being the ability to handle the wind a little bit better and the much longer flight times of 4 to 5, even 6 minutes, depending on your battery selection. Should you get an analog drone like this Betaflight Air 75 or the HDZero 75mm? I think I've made my point clear, especially if you compare these side by side. The HDZero video is in a league of its own and gives you so many flexible options with the camera that it is my go-to drone all the time. I never reach for my analog drone unless I don't have my digital one with me. Now, of course, I'm definitely biased on this, but I'll let the video speak for itself. Now, on the software side, I also have a few changes that I recommended to HappyModel to make. One of them is to always use Betaflight 451 or higher, as there's been some fixes for the AIO5 in those newer versions of Betaflight. So if your drone shipped with something older than Betaflight 451, I do recommend you update. I'll also have the CLI settings in the description of this video so you can copy exactly what I've got set up. The other thing that I noticed is the standard firmware shipped with a CPU overclock of 120 megahertz. And unfortunately, when the AIO5 gets too hot, it gets unstable at 120 megahertz overclock. So you need to set that overclock to a maximum of 108 megahertz. I'll also have a CLI command in the description for you to take a look at for that. Applying some foam right here under the camera. I've just got a little strip of VHB tape, just a little bit wider than the plastic ribbing itself. And doing that really improves the impact resistance of this camera mount. Another thing that I did is I applied some E6000 glue right here, kind of along this edge where the lens meets the camera body, and that keeps the camera from coming off. Another change that I do on mine is I route this antenna wire into here, which then keeps this from flopping around. There's a little bit of E6000 holding that down too. One last change that you might already have on yours is this antenna holder that kind of pops it up and props it up and keeps it out of danger. So that's one that you're going to want to print and make sure that it's there. I also apply some E6000 to that just to keep the antenna firmly seated into that connector. Let me know down in the comments of the video if you have any other questions about this drone, any kind of settings that I use, or any other suggestions. I'm always reading the comments and I love to help people out. With that, bye.